So, Alien Romulus is now out in theaters and IMAX screens alike, and with like any respectable blockbuster nowadays, they of course had a line of really cool popcorn buckets like this super cool Xenomorph popcorn bucket, so you can eat all the kernels out of the villain's skull. But besides all of that, is this movie worth checking out on the big square? You know, it wasn't until buying this popcorn bucket that I realized just how phallic the Xenomorph's head actually looks. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Brockopp side. And, yeah, we got yet another Alien movie, courtesy of Fede Alvarez in 20th Century Studios. Has anybody looked at the facehuggers in one of these movies and thought to myself, okay, I don't really want an alien bursting out of my chest, but the hug sounds nice, at least. But of course, the movie has been out for a couple of days now, so chances are I'm not the only one that's seen this movie, so I'd love to hear your thoughts down below on what you thought about Alien Romulus. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? But without further ado, I know you're all here because you want me to talk about it in the big fancy format, which I did go see, as per the title of the video, so let's start talking about that, shall we? First things first, the movie was shot on the Alexa 35, which is a camera that's not technically approved for the IMAX screen just yet, but there are several cameras in the Alexa line that are, so this one's probably gonna get approved pretty soon here. So I'm me, right? And I talk about IMAX releases of new movies quite a lot, right? And of course, because of that, I get a little obsessive about them black bars on the screen, yo, or lack thereof, which luckily for this movie, the IMAX version of Alien Romulus is completely in the 1:90 aspect ratio, filling up the entire IMAX screen for the entire runtime. Can I get a hell yeah? And what makes that even better is, according to IMDb, the IMAX version alone is the one with the 1:90 aspect ratio. The regular theatrical releases and other like normal formats and stuff only have the 2:39. So if you do see this movie in IMAX, you will just naturally get more image. So bonus points for that. And this movie has some fantastic production design, taking a lot of notes from the original Alien movies with these really great dystopian practical sets, and the Romulus Remus space station just looks straight out of the mid-80s like the original films. And aside from that, this is a sci-fi movie after all, so you get tons of cool shots of outer space and stuff. And just little tip for any filmmakers watching, if you make a big budget movie like this and you release it in IMAX and you put some really cool giant sweeping shots of space in your IMAX movie, I'm gonna automatically like it a lot, just putting that out there. So of course that's all a big fancy way of saying the IMAX really gives you a good sense of scope of like space and the sets and all that good stuff, but I think how it also really works is that sense of claustrophobia you get on the space station when the Xenomorph is let loose and starts rampaging all around, taking out the main characters one by one as we go. It's something that works really well even with the expanded format. It harkens back immediately to that feeling of claustrophobia you get from the original Alien movie and stuff, and this movie was also inspired by the video game Alien Isolation, which unfortunately I have not played that, but I really want to now after hearing it was an inspiration for this movie. You get a lot of close-up shots of characters like crawling through floor grates and going through piping and just trying to avoid the Xenomorph as much as humanly possible, and those all are fantastic, and you really get a sense of, oh, we are definitely trapped with these aliens and that's not very good. Oh, and speaking of the aliens, the Xenomorph in this movie looks absolutely fantastic, and I think that has to do with the fact that not only is it of course lit really well and kept in shadow for a lot of it, just kind of gives that creepy sense of, oh, this is a monster that blends into the shadows and you don't quite know where it is, and that's terrifying. And I think a lot of that as well is thanks to the fact that the Xenomorph is practical in this movie. It's an animatronic created by Legacy Effects, formerly Stan Winston Studios, who also did the Xenomorphs for Aliens back in the day. So you got the guys with the original recipe to make this one, and not to mention, I believe they also had several like practical remote controlled facehuggers or just crawling around the set and stuff. And I'm gonna be totally honest with you here, the Xenomorph itself doesn't scare me that much. Like that thing comes barging through that door, it can catch these hands for all I care. But if those facehuggers come crawling around, nope. Take me out now. Nope. This movie does have an IMAX 6-track sound mixing for the IMAX version. obviously. And like I've said before, the IMAX sound system always does a great job of bringing like these really good scores to life, which Benjamin Wallfish did the score for this movie, and it is just top-notch all the way through. It really adds to the suspense and the scope. But of course, a movie's sound design is more than just cool music. There's also some really great Foley and sound effects going on in there with blasters going off, which are like, you know, right in your ears, like you're actually in the space station with them, which, you know, can be a little jolting, but I kind of like that too, because it kind of adds to the immersion a bit. And even though this movie does have a few more jump scares than I'd prefer, I think the way they're utilized here with the sound effects and everything are actually kind of effective, and you can thank that 6-track sound mix for that a lot. But I think my favorite part of the sound design in this movie in the IMAX version are these couple scenes here and there where you can hear the alien crawling around the space station, but you don't know where it is. So it's like, oh shit, there's an alien in here, like that one show at Disney World that used to give kids nightmares. I'm a real sucker for that kind of sound design. Now, this is something that I personally did not experience, but I've heard people online complain about the sound mix for the dialogue in the IMAX version. Like, some of the characters' dialogue can be a little hard to hear. Some have kind of compared it to Tenet's sound mix, which was like weird and muffled, which I didn't really get that. I thought I understood most of the characters' dialogue pretty well, so it could be like some varying sound quality throughout different theaters, or people just having better ears than others, I don't know. Personally, I didn't deal with that, but you might, so just fair warning. So I guess we'll wrap things up here by giving you my overall thoughts on the movie itself. And yeah, I think this movie is a really well-made legacy sequel that goes back to the basics of the original. And like pretty much all legacy sequels, it's got all kinds of references and callbacks to various other Alien movies, like certain lines of dialogue that's cool to hear again, which may not fully make sense in the moment, but still like, oh yeah, it's from the one Alien movie. That's pretty cool, yeah? I wouldn't say the movie is like downright terrifying, but that tension and the overall creep factor, especially in the third act, which I'm not going to spoil for you, but oh my god, it was a choice. An interesting choice, which personally I thought was cool in a very fucked up kind of way. Overall, Alien Romulus checks off all the boxes for a really good legacy sequel of this variety. I had a really good time checking this out with a crowded theater opening night, and I'm really curious as to where the franchise might go from here, because not only this, we also got a new Predator movie a couple of years ago on Hulu, Prey, which it's funny, this movie was supposed to be on Hulu originally, but then Disney was like, hey, how about we put it in theaters and have it make monies, which hopefully it does, because this is a really good movie. As for whether or not you should see this movie in IMAX, I'm gonna say that yes, absolutely. Are you fucking kidding me? But the fact that a version was specially created for the IMAX screens, it's like, anytime that happens, you gotta at least give it a shot. I mean, come on now. You know what I think they should do if they make another Alien movie, though? Is if they make another popcorn bucket, but instead of it being the head this time, next time they should do, like, the torso with, like, the arms on it, and if they do another movie, like, do the legs and the other leg and stuff, so you just kind of, like, build a full-size Xenomorph that can hold popcorn. People would buy that. You'd buy it. I'd buy it. I've got problems, but you know, I'd still buy it. So those are my thoughts on Alien Romulus in IMAX. If you want to see another IMAX review from me, I got just the thing right over here. Otherwise, we'll see you on the Brockopp side.